Hi Lana, welcome once again to Lana's Coach. So this is a continuation from where we stopped when you are coming up with a scheme of work, because for us to come up with a lesson plan, then you need to have a scheme of work. So the first thing for you to do is to watch our video on scheme of work so that you understand more about lesson plan. So for those of us who are joining us for the very first time, kindly also take a second or two, click on that particular subscribe button, and of course like this video if you enjoy the content. What is a lesson plan? Right? So a lesson plan involves a logical arrangement of material for a lesson. As the name suggests, you need to have it for you to execute a lesson. So it's a tool actually, right, that you require when you want to prepare well for a given lesson. So it's a guide on how the content of a lesson will be delivered to the learners. So they are written on a day-to-day basis. Unlike, and I believe that's why I told you to check the scheme of work first, is where now you come to logic to the lesson plan. Now, unlike the scheme of work, this one you have to create it when you are going to class. You know, for the scheme of work, you can always create it before the 1 week before the term starts, right, or before the semester starts, isn't it? But for the lesson plan, you will always be required to create a lesson plan every time you get inside or you get to a lesson, to a class to execute a particular lesson, isn't it? Now, where you are going to get this information for you to come up with a lesson plan is from the scheme of work. And that's why it's stated that it is drawn on the basis of the scheme of work. So you need to have a scheme of work placed first, is when you can generate your lesson plan. So for those of us who are doing their teaching practice, that is something that you need to understand. And of course, if you have not gone yet for some kind of teaching training, you can always learn from this, right? So it's therefore a work plan of work covering the details of what learners should learn, like how do you implement the learning outcomes or the learning objectives, right? So the last point here is what I was trying to make you understand, that whereas a scheme of work is geared towards a long-term plan, a lesson plan focuses on planning on a given lesson. So one is to be prepared before the semester or term starts, and one is to be prepared during a given lesson. Why a lesson plan? For our instructor, it guides you on what to teach and how it should be taught. I mean, even if you're a master of a particular content, if you don't have a good guideline, you might deviate from the main topic that the learner should be able to do, to be learning. And you realize that maybe you could be teaching things that are not really in line with what the learners are supposed to learn. So even if you are a master of the content or the industry where you are, let's say you're a doctor, kindly be guided by a lesson plan. Very, very important. Then encourages the logical development and organization of a lesson, helps the instructor to pre-advance. So it also enables you to know, how am I going to execute this lesson? What do I need? What kind of teaching materials do I need? Teaching aids do I need? What kind of resources do I need? And so on, right? So help the instructor to be more confident. Now, if this is like having some compass direction or on how you are going to travel, right? So it gives you some confidence when you're presenting the lesson, because you know exactly that this one I have to achieve before the other one. Provides a basis of self-evaluation. You can also re-examine yourself, right? And then you see whether you taught very well or not based on the lesson plan, isn't it? So acts as a record. Of course, you can always relook at what you taught, because you can always archive them somewhere. Help the instructor manage time well. For me, this always is a plus when you're having a lesson plan, right? Imagine you have 2 hours and you have to achieve 3 objectives. So you have to strictly observe that you have met those 3 objectives within the stated time. And then outlines the help steps to be followed. Of course, it's going to give you a step-by-step process of how you're going to execute your lesson. And then spells out the objectives. These are the learning outcomes to be achieved during the lesson, right? Or the objectives. So just like the scheme of work, it has different features. The first feature is administrative details. Indicate your name, the name of the institution, the level of class or class. Is it a diploma? Is it a certificate? Date when it was prepared. Actually, date when this particular lesson was carried out, right? And of course, time also. I don't know whether yes, time also is here, right? And the subject that you're going to teach. And of course, the number of students. Maybe something that has not been indicated here will follow. Okay, we have this topics here. So number 2 are the lesson title and topic, right? So this one is usually taken directly. Actually, almost everything is taken from the scheme of work. It's only that the logical arrangements of the lesson plan is different, right? Also, you have to come up with specific objectives. I normally call them the expected learning outcomes, right? So you can use the Bloom's taxonomy to help you understand how you're going to generate or come up with their learning objectives. Remember, if you're teaching level 5, which happens to be a diploma, you'll need to use maybe the lowest part of the Bloom's taxonomy, like use the verbs such as identify, right? As you go up the Bloom's taxonomy, you can use other tough verbs such as explain, illustrate, and so on. So that one is a topic of another day. So kindly also note that you have to indicate the objectives. Then within the body, the lesson should be developed systematically in terms of presentation and training activities. So it could indicate how you are going to unwind your lesson as you proceed. And this one actually can be done in a step-by-step manner. Then you can have a summary, right, that captures the main points. Then also, just like the scheme of work, you need to indicate the assignment, right? So the assignment should cut across the various domains of learning, isn't it? Knowledge, skill, also capture some kind of attitudes, right? Remarks is very important. Highlight the strong and weak points of a lesson. That will help you maybe improve in the next lesson. And of course, time management, time planning. You need to, when you're creating the steps within the body part, define well stipulated time. So if, let's say, objective 1 is going to take 30 minutes, indicate 30 minutes. If objective 2 is going to take 30 minutes, indicate 30 minutes. So allow me to now, let's go to the real thing. Let's look at our documents, because we can't create a lesson plan without what? Without a scheme of work. So I will maybe share both of them so that you see how we prepared the first scheme of work so that we can generate the lesson plan. Alright, so there you go. On the right, this is the scheme of work that we prepared. So you can have a look at the previous video. It's just within the channel, just search scheme of work. And then on the left is now this is now the lesson plan that you need to prepare. So this lesson plan, actually, it's a very easy document to prepare if you have a scheme of work. So if you ask me between scheme of work and lesson plan, which one takes time, is a scheme of work. Because you'll find that all information that is in lesson plan is actually from the scheme of work. So like for example, if you look at the administrative details here, I always say that if you're doing teaching practice, this one is going to be your admission number here. But if you have now been employed, you can use your employment number. You can also indicate your name, level, class name. That is now lesson, the date, right, and time. So that this lesson is going to take 2 hours, as you can see, right? So what you indicated here, it should be the same, right? You can see I indicated period is 1 and 2 within the scheme of work, right? So the date also here is very, very important. You have to indicate the number of students and the week. You can see lesson plan week 6, scheme of work is week 6, right? That should actually be systematical. And then lesson title, concepts of database design. You can see here the lesson title is the same, right? So you should not have different titles. And of course the subject, you can see database management is the same. Now specific objectives, you can see the specific objective, the first objective within the scheme of work was what? Define. Actually just copy paste, right? Just copy paste these objectives, don't rewrite anything. You can see there are 3 of them, right? So just copy paste them, here they are, right? And then you can see we also had the teaching aids. So you can also have the teaching aids here, right? You just add them, ensure that there's systematic. And then the reference here, right? I think I used different so the reference also should be placed here. I think this is another book, but you can also have the book that you placed here. And then presentation. Now this is a body part of the lesson, you can see. So it has the introduction. We have the introduction. Now before the body, actually the introduction part is very, very important. Ensure that first you take the roll call, right? So you have to indicate there. And of course the other one is to recap or review the previous lesson so that you link it to the lesson that you're presenting at the moment. So it's very, very important. And then you introduce the lesson title and objectives. Now this should actually be some kind of a well-arranged flow. So it should not be like you are doing it separately. It should just be something that is flowing, right? Like you take the roll call, you recap, you come up with the lesson title, objectives, and then you start the today's lesson, right? So you can see I've separated the objectives into 3 steps of how I'm going to execute them. So you can see that is the body. Now step 1, actually they're always in steps, so you have to indicate the step, right? So you can see step 1, learners define the terms database, data abstraction and schemas through question and answer. And you can see here that is the activity, or rather the activity of the learner, right? So I've also just indicated it here. Then ensure that you have a way of how you're going to confirm either the answer, or you can elaborate that particular feedback in details, right? So you can always say after the schema, if for example if the student has given you some answers, yeah, you can't just say that is enough. You can always confirm the answers that they are correct, and if they are not correct, you can give them the right answer, and of course you can give a broader definition. So that's what should be captured within the lesson plan. Then you can see the step 2 captures the second objective within the schema. Scroll down here, you can see through, think, pair, and share. So if you come here, okay, I think I interchanged these. Sorry for that. Don't do what I'm doing. I think I'm a bad teacher. But yes, it should actually flow, right? It should actually flow that the learner's plan, actually this step here, step 3 should actually come at steps 2. I've just interchanged them, sorry for that. But you can see the third step is what? Do mind map. So I'm actually, it's just I interchange them. So I want you to have yours systematical. And then after the steps, you can summarize, like as we had already indicated, teacher goes through the main points of the lesson through question and answers, isn't it? Then teacher uses, you can use the different techniques that you have been taught, isn't it, or to teach, like for example democracy. You can use mind map, you can use muddiest point, you can use 3-ish something. Then we have these that I normally use: know, want to know, and learned. Yeah, KWL, I believe. Right, those are things that you can use to summarize your work here. Then lastly, have an assignment. You can see assignment has been captured here. Just the assignment, just copy paste this one. That also was within the scheme of work. If you have done that, then maybe the other part that I didn't really mention, when you're coming up with the steps, sorry for that. Now, I've indicated that I'm going to take 2 hours, so I should distribute those particular 2 hours to cater for the objectives very well, isn't it? So for the introduction part, you can see I've allocated 10 minutes. Then for the first step, I've allocated 15 minutes. Second objective, 15 minutes. Third objective, another 15 minutes. And then to summarize, I've indicated 5 minutes. I don't know if you're good in maths. Total, that is for 30, 45, 50, 60. All of them are 60. So I think I've not, but this is just an illustration. So I hope yours is going to be well distributed. So 60 minutes, that means 1 hour. So I was doing this one just for some 1 hour lesson. So it depends. If it's 2 hours, as indicated, you need to distribute your work accordingly. So let me just expand this. So that is how your lesson plan should look like. So if you have any question, share it within the comment section. Otherwise, like the video and don't forget to subscribe.